You ever wonder if these ancient ideas, like life force energy, could actually have a real basis in modern physics? Well, today we're going to dive into a pretty wild theory that connects a really bizarre geometric pattern, one that keeps popping up in sci-fi and even quantum mechanics, to the ancient idea of chi. So could a simple shape, a pattern, really be the key to understanding a fundamental energy of life? Let's find out.
I know. It sounds like the setup to a really nerdy joke, right? A time traveler, an energy healer, and a quantum physicist walk into a bar. But what if I told you there was a single, surprisingly elegant thread that ties all of them together?
The clue, believe it or not, is a single word, Kagome. And if you're a fan of anime or sci-fi, that name probably rings a bell. It has this funny way of popping up in stories about manipulating and traveling through time. And that is not an accident. It's this fascinating hint that the word itself is tied to bigger ideas of flow, of dynamics, and while bending the rules of the physical world. All right, so here's how we're going to connect the dots. We'll start with that weird sci-fi pattern, then we'll unpack the real-world physics of the Kagome geometry. From there, we'll jump over to the ancient concept of chi, and then, this is the really exciting part, we'll build a bridge to show how this physical shape is just a stunning model for energy flow before we get into some truly mind-bending applications. So let's start with that first clue. Why does this specific name keep appearing in fiction about time? Let's unpack that. So, you've got the classic anime Inuyasha, where the main character Kagome falls into a well and bam, she travels through time. Then there's the sci-fi series Continuum, where a key character is named Kagame, and he's central to a whole time travel plot. Look, this isn't just a coincidence. It shows that on some intuitive level, storytellers are linking this name to ideas of dynamic flow and, twisting the laws of physics. Okay, so let's jump from fiction to fact. What in the world is the Kagome lattice that these stories seem to be hinting at? At first glance, it's just a deceptively simple and beautiful geometric pattern. Just picture a web of triangles that only touch at their corners. And as they do, they create this repeating pattern of both triangles and hexagons. The name itself actually comes from traditional Japanese basket weaving, which has this exact structure. But in the world of physics, this simple shape is hiding some truly profound secrets. So this pattern has these three really bizarre properties that make it so special. First, something called geometric frustration. Just imagine three people who all can't stand each other trying to sit at a tiny round table. They can never find a stable, comfortable arrangement. The lattice is exactly like that. Its internal forces are in this constant state of tension, so it can never just settle down. It's always dynamic. It also has these incredible properties that let it both hold energy in place, kind of like a battery, and let it flow freely, kind of like a wire. This combo creates the perfect system for self-organizing, circulating energy. It's almost like it's designed for flow. So keep that idea of a constantly moving, kind of frustrated system in your head. Now, we're going to switch gears completely and talk about the ancient concept of qi. Okay, so in traditional Chinese medicine, qi is considered the body's vital life force. But, and this is important, it's not some static blob of energy. Its entire nature is about movement. It's described as flowing through a specific network of pathways. These are called meridians that connect at key nodes or acupoints. A network of pathways and nodes sound familiar? The whole system is built on this idea of balanced, unimpeded flow. And this right here is the absolute key to our whole comparison. Qi has to circulate. If it gets blocked, it causes stagnation and illness. So in this system, health is the smooth, dynamic, continuous flow of energy through the body's invisible geometric network. Okay, here we go. This is the main event. We've got a physical pattern that can't stay still on one side and a concept of life energy that must always flow on the other. So let's build the bridge between them. And this table, this is where it all just clicks into place. It's the heart of the whole idea. On the left, you have a property from modern physics. On the right, a concept from ancient medicine. And the parallels, they're absolutely stunning. Let's just walk through the most important ones. Remember that geometric frustration, that system that can never settle down? Well, that is a perfect physical model for the core principle that qi must never, ever stagnate. In both cases, health and function aren't about being in a stable resting state. They're about being in a state of constant, dynamic, balanced motion. Okay, next up, flat bands. In physics, this basically means the lattice has these spots where energy can be held. It sort of gets stuck in place, like water in a reservoir, instead of just immediately flowing away. This is such a fascinating parallel to the concept of qi pooling in the energy centers of the body, like the dantian, which are traditionally thought of as the body's big energy storage tanks. And finally, the lattice creates what physicists call chiral edge modes. The easy way to think of them is like one-way streets for energy. Energy doesn't just flow randomly all over the place. It's guided along these specific paths around the edge of the material. I mean, what a powerful physical analogy for the body's meridians. Not just random currents, but defined directional highways for qi to travel along. So this is a beautiful conceptual model, right? It all fits together so nicely, but what can we actually do with it? Let's look at some speculative but really fascinating application. First, think about biofield research. Imagine creating a digital model of the human body's connective tissue, the fascia, and then overlaying it with the physics of a Kagome lattice. You could potentially model how a subtle energy field circulates through the entire body, all without a central pump like the heart, just a collective emergent flow. You could even apply this to architecture and design. Practices like feng shui have always said that the geometry of a room affects its energy. So what if a floor tiled in a Kagome pattern could actually guide subtle air currents or even ambient electromagnetic fields? It could create a space that just feels more alive, maybe channeling energy towards a meditation spot or the center of a room. And this is where it goes full science fiction material, engineering. Could we create nanomaterials built with this exact structure? Imagine a meditation mat woven with a Kagome lattice that actually interacts with your body's biofield, creating a feedback loop that enhances your practice. Or maybe materials that act like chi mirrors, storing and reflecting subtle energy. The possibilities are just incredible. So here's the crucial point. We've been talking about the Kagome lattice as an external model, right? A way to understand something. But what if it's not just an analogy? What if this geometry is already, physically, part of us? There is a seriously mind-bending theory out there that our body's fascia, that web of connective tissue that holds everything together, is actually structured like a Kagome lattice. And if that's true, then qi might not be some mystical external force at all. It could be an emergent property that arises naturally from the frustrated, dynamic geometry of our own biology. This single idea could explain so much. It would explain why energy sensations during medication feel like they're following these complex winding paths. It would explain why acupoints feel like these distinct nodes of interaction. And maybe most importantly, it could explain how a tiny input, like your focused intention or even a single deep breath, can create a massive shift across the entire system, just like it does in a physically frustrated lattice. Which leaves us with a final, really profound question. Are we literally coded with a living geometry, a biological pattern that by its very nature is designed to generate a dynamic, flowing field, connecting the very structure of our bodies to the fundamental energy of the universe? Now that is something to think about.